All right, folks, welcome back, lads and ladettes. Yeah, beautiful cloudy morning here in the valley. A lovely Sunday, and yeah, we're going to go and feed some sheep nuts to the triplets. Thought I would give you a bit of a farm update on what's been happening. Seeing I haven't been on here for a wee bit. Been a bit slack. Yeah, nah. Well, yeah, basically there's plenty happening. Give you an update of a few changes that's been happening here, and yeah, what's been going on. Basically everything's been scanned apart from the hoggets. They'll be done end of this month, July, and yeah, 5-year-olds are scanned. The mixed age are all scanned. 2-2s are scanned a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, we're pretty happy with what's been there with the results. They've been they were made it all on baleage pretty much the whole way through, from the teas were going out till basically before scanning, just saving the grass up in the hills because it's been such a dry autumn here. Nothing really was growing. Middle of June, our new grass was starting to take away like the growth that we should have been having in May. So yeah, I'm basically on my 5th graze, I think, with the hoggets on the new grass. They're still here on my place. They've been taking the top off the new grass for now, and yeah, the next round, they're in the last paddock now, and the next round they will be taking it down more, getting it down, get the residual down, so it'll grow back nice and fresh before we put the mixed age triplets, the 3 and 4 year olds on there. Basically 4 paddocks across here are yeah, all new grass, and basically we're down, you could say 20% say on triplets from last year in the mixed age and the 2-2s. We're down to 12.5% of the flock are triplets in each age group, apart from the 5-year-olds that scanned 32%, I think it was. Overall, so there's about 116, I think it is, triplets in the 5-year-olds. Half a dozen or 8 of those are quads, and we have our first ewe that's scanned with 5 lambs in. So that'll be interesting. If I can keep them all alive, that'll be pretty good. But yeah, I'm not counting me chickens yet, because it could come in pretty wet over lambing, which it generally does. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's all right having high scanning percentages like we did last year, but it's actually trying to keep them alive when they come out is the biggest thing. Last year we basically the weather, we had a very wet autumn last year and winter, and yeah, the ground was just waterlogged. When my 3 and 4 year old, the mixed age, were lambing, we were just having really cold weather and wet weather, and they were basically first 2 weeks of lambing. Basically there was about 2 or 3 inches of water lying on the flat paddocks where I was lambing them. So yeah, basically if you didn't get to a weak lamb very quickly, yeah, you were losing them pretty quickly as well. Basically once they come out, if the mother didn't lick them clean and or lamb on a dry spot, yeah, they didn't have much of a chance. So I was riding them basically 3 or 4 times a day when it was wet, just to pick up the weak ones. I picked up a lot of lambs, saved a lot of lambs. But yeah, they go to a woman close to the flat farm. She rears them up and fattens them and stuff like that, and keeps, I think she keeps the new lambs that I send her, because she knows the breeding of them basically. So yeah, it's just, yeah, last couple of years it didn't really pay you unless you had a really good setup for pet lambs. It didn't really pay you to actually rear them on powder milk, because the powder milk was basically the price of what you were getting for the lamb. So it was just basically out of the niceness of your heart to really do it. So yeah, but anyway, at least with less triplets this year, hopefully if it does come on wet, it'll be a bit better, because there'll be less ewes on the flats. So hopefully more grass will do them. But we'll see what happens. It's been quite dry still so far. we're down, I don't know, for 300-400 mil probably compared to last year, maybe even more. So yeah, it's been pretty good. You're still fit to drive across the paddocks on the bike, on the tractor, without leaving a mark. Compared to this time last year, you could hardly walk across without sinking down a few inches. Like, so tiles aren't even running. They're running after a bit of rain, but they're not running now. We had rain half a week ago, 20 mil, and yeah, the tiles have dried up now, so they have. So yeah, it just shows you the difference. While last year they were running flat out the whole winter basically, and still couldn't keep up with the waterlogged ground. So, but anyway, that's enough chitter chatter. We'll get a bag of nuts on the bike, and yeah, take them through the paddock and get these ewes around the trough, and yeah, show you a bit more, I suppose. He's looking for something, girls. Better get in quick, girls. They disappeared. So I've been feeding them about a week exactly, sorry, today. And they're slowly getting onto it, especially this mob here. Most of them's heads down. Yeah, there's you definitely know the ones who have never had it before, and the ones who have. The ones who have had them, you know, because they come running to it, looking for it. Didn't take them long to discover when they seen the troughs out and they heard the nuts hitting them. It didn't take them long to put them on, to realise what's going on. So you definitely know who were triplets last year, and I'd say half of them were, by the way that they're coming to the trough, maybe even more, a bit more than half. But yeah, the rest of them will soon get onto it once they get curious of what the others are doing. If you can get them around the trough at least, when there's still nuts there, they might actually sniff it out or whatever and see the others eating and what they're doing and be like, oh, hang on, why aren't we eating, that kind of thing. Last year was the same. Took about a week and a half before they all, basically most of them, 99% of them, got onto it. And I didn't actually have to go around them, they actually came running. And then once they did, actually got the grain trailer on and put a bag or two or whatever it was. I was actually feeding them all, so I think there was about 6 or 7 bags going into that. Rather than putting it onto the back of the bike, I just chucked it in there, drove down the paddock wherever they were, rather than them having to run because they're heavy and lambs, or rather than them trying to run to the troughs to get to them. I just went where the mob was, where they were, and basically just put it on the open it up and put it on the ground, and then they all got into it pretty quickly. While these big paddocks, if they're generally, when they're on it, once they hear the bike, they're running to the trough anyway. But you know, there's always some slow ones or lame ones or whatever that are going to miss out. So at least if they're in one mob, or you sort of gather them up and put them to where the slow ones are, at least there's 9 times out of 10, then they are going to they're all going to get a bite of it basically. Yeah, but no, they're quite happy there. It doesn't take them long to clean it up, as you see, and the others are waiting on the fence line, waiting for theirs. So rather than chatting, I'll carry on. Few of them are a bit sceptical of what's going on, and most of these coming over here, mad looking for it. There's more every day walking towards you, so that's a good sign, I suppose, isn't it? They're getting heavy and lamb, you can see them. Yeah, orange heads on them. That's what colour we use for triplets. Hey girlies. Aye. Right. I'll get your biscuits out. Yeah, there's always a few, isn't there? Just on the follow. You definitely know who the triplets are. These ones are looking more. Coming towards. No, don't go that way. be curious enough to go over and see what they're doing. But being old girls, they are quite stubborn too sometimes. They will go in, get there slowly. Go on, girlies. Kenty's over towards the trough now. It's basically a, what did you say? There's a happy medium. You want to push them towards the trough, so they get to the, the nuts, so they actually learn to get onto it. But then you don't want to stress them out that they won't actually go to it, if you know what I mean. Like, I could bring a dog here and do it, but it'll stress them out more, it'll worry them more, and you want them to actually go because they want to go, rather than being chased to it, if you know what I mean, because it'll put them off even more. When they're in a big group, big mob like that there, when I started them last Sunday, he's walking away from it. They were in one big mob. They hadn't had it before, so I had my head dogs there, round them up, put the troughs in the corner, put the nuts out, and held them there. Far enough back that they had more room to move, but not far enough that they're going to bolt down the fence or whatever. That hold them in the corner. I was in the middle, head and dog each side, so they'd sort of go around, but sort of stay around the troughs and watch the others and stuff like that. But the biggest thing with that is once they get in there, they turn around and face you, so they're not actually looking where the troughs is. But then if you have it too far out of the fence line, they won't actually go to it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's a happy medium, but we split them up on Tuesday or whatever, so because the paddocks are quite even with the residual, and it's the easiest way, just to, because they will follow where the rest of them's going. So if you can get the nuts in the trough quickly and get around them quickly, there'll be nuts left, and hopefully slowly, one at a time, they'll actually get there. But yeah, that's why I'm not using dogs either. You kind of want them to want to go there, rather than being forced, if you know what I mean. At the start, that's grand to train them, but like I say, more than half of these have been, probably this last couple of years, have known what nuts are. Same with the 4-year-olds. They were easy last year to get onto it because of the exact same thing. They had been they'd had nuts as 3-year-old, but the 3-year-olds are harder because they don't give the nuts to the tutus, so they don't get it until they're 3-year-old. So you're actually having to train them from the very start what to do. But if you can actually have them together with some 4-year-olds, it's a bit easier. But I'll see. When we first started, I had them in the back of the sheep yards, held up for, I think it was about half a week. It took to train them on bailage, the newer bailages. So I had bailage around the outside and then the nuts on top. Doing that a couple of times a day because I didn't want to waste it. Plus it was wet too then, or wet yard, so I didn't want them tramping too much into the ground, wasting it. But yeah, basically if they're locked up there off grass, nothing else to it apart from the bailage and the nuts on top, they actually get on it pretty quickly. And I might have to do that with the 3-year-olds, I don't know. I'll see how they go in the paddock. But yeah, I'm just concentrating on the 5-year-olds now. But once I get the mixed age down onto the paddocks, I'll be starting them, because these will be lambing in 2 weeks time, and once they start, they'll be a month away. But I want to get them fetuses growing, so the more nuts, well, if I can get them the nuts, it's higher value, higher feed value for them, so it'll be better for them. And the sooner I do it, the quicker they get onto it too. So actually when they do start to drop, and 2 weeks before lambing, they're actually due to lamb, they'll have less stress on them, because they're running through the bike. They're not scared of me, they're actually wanting to come towards me, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's the way of it. But that's why I'm not using dogs, and I'm just trying to slowly do them. And like I say, there's the week, it's amazing how many more actually come on it, and give it another week, hopefully most of them, 90% of them, will be on it too. So anyway, one last mob's waiting on the fence line for me. We're a bit up there, and yeah, that'll be the last batch, and then I might take you over to see the hoggets, which is over here, and yeah, show you them. So out of 37 empties, I think we have 4 that are a bit late to go to the works. They'll be going next week or the week after, and yeah, that's not too bad compared to what they were like coming through. There was the 4-year-olds didn't really do that well since we shone them in February. They just wouldn't maintain their weight for some reason, don't know why. We can't figure it out. And yeah, basically they were not too bad. They were doing quite well in the village, and then they come on for scan. They weren't that great either. So I'm basically kind of looking after the real light ones of them. Of the 4-year-olds, and the twins and the triplets are 3-year-old triplets are in a good easy paddock in the hills, with a lot of fresh grass that was ate off over mating that we never had anything else in, and the other 3-year-olds are in a swamp paddock that hasn't been grazed for a good couple of months as well, because we were redoing the boundary fence there, so I couldn't really have much stock there. And there's actually quite a nice feed in there, with what, 60 triplets, 70 triplets, I think it is, something like that. But yeah, so we'll put they're only staying there till we get this grazed off. Then we're going to bring them down and yeah, sort them out. But yeah, it's just the 3-year-olds did well on the village, the 2-year-olds did well on the village, the 5-year-olds did well on the village. It was just the 4-year-olds, and all we can put it down to was having the wool on for an extra 2 months, getting into that 8-month shearing. Yeah, didn't really help them. I don't know why, because we don't shear the hoggets till after they come off the crops, which is end of March. The 3-year-olds were done start of February, and yeah, we know for a fact that having the wool on the hoggets and the heat of the sun doesn't actually overheat them, because whenever we've had them in to clean them up or drench them, the top of the tips of the wool would be absolutely boiling, but when you stuck your hand down into the 3 inches of wool, whatever that they have on, they were nice and cold underneath, cool underneath. So it actually, it's an insulation around them, but it actually cools them as well, keeps them nice and cold as well. Having the wool, that's why wool's good. Woolen jerseys, the whole shebang, doesn't sweat you too much, but keeps you warm too. Same with insulation in the house as well. It's fire retardant, natural fire retardant as well. So yeah, I don't know why more people don't use it, but there you go. But yeah, we'll take you over to the hoggets here and show you them, and yeah, then I'll take you around to the back of the farm and show you a new venture that we're going on. So these will be shifted tomorrow, all being well, and I'll zoom in. You'd nearly think there were ewes standing there, especially that one. I know there's boys with ewes smaller than them. I reckon they're about 65 kilos, some of them. There's some bruisers there. They have done incredibly well this year. But that's a lovely growth. That's a lovely residual there on the new grass that we want for them. Like I say, this will be, yeah, we're getting this down tight because it was wet at the start of last week, and if we can save a couple of more days, then it lasts them. The next stuff will last them a couple of more days longer too. We're hoping to get another week and a half off the flats here, because there's quite a bit of growth there. When you take going down to the base, where am I? To the base there. There we go. Oh, roots are slowly getting established, and yeah, there's a good bit of length to that. What would that be? Let me see. 6. Now what'll that be? That one there. Can I stretch it out to my thumb? I know my span's about 8 inches, 9 inches. So yeah, there's a good growth there. It's going on to the third leaf. That's actually, yeah, third leaf's growing there. Second leaf's growing on that one. So yeah, it's actually, I'll put you back in the ground. There you go. Push you back in, you might keep growing. Hopefully it doesn't die. But yeah, there's plenty of cover there. I mean, like that'll, yeah, 800 lambs, I'd say, 800 hoggets, I'd say they'll last a good week and a half, possibly 2 weeks here, hoping. If it stays dry. If it's wet, that's the biggest thing. If it's wet, it's an absolute pain. Especially for new grass, because they can muddy it up and then they won't eat it, and so on. But yeah, they're pretty happy over there. They're not even crying. Generally, any other time if I've come down the laneway here with the dogs, they'll come crying to me across the paddock when they're hungry. But they're not actually hungry there. They're just looking at me, wondering who I'm talking to, because it's just myself. But yeah, we'll bring them in. Like I say, we're trying to hold them here as long as I can before going to the other farm, because it's actually getting a bit of cover over there now. Got rid of another 100 odd fat lambs, so I think we've got 130 lambs left there to take through in the next month or so. And yeah, I was planning trying to hope to keep them here till we scanned, so then we're not trucking, you know, the empties down there to go to the works eventually. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. That's, yeah, scanning's another 3 weeks away, so I'll be pushing it to keep them here for 3 weeks, really. If the weather stayed good, possibly yes, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, like I say, these are definitely, I want to say 10 kilos. Maybe even 12 kilos, 15 kilos, maybe heavier compared to this time last year. They were small. They went into mating quite well. The weaned, we reckon the weaned 2, possibly 3 kilos heavier compared to any other year. Which meant that they actually went out of the crops heavier, so they're actually doing quite well. You know, they're an extra, what, you could say a month ahead, being 3 kilos heavier. Growth wise, so it just obviously held them going straight through. These hoggets were incredible. Going into mating, we reckon there were at least 50, some of them even 55 kilos when I weighed them. And that's quite good, because you can judge off what was being killed on the male lambs off these at the same time, and they were doing about 50 kilos, some of them even a bit more, so you kind of judge off that too. We don't weigh lambs here whenever they come in. Might weigh a couple, pick a couple up and break me back, seeing how heavy I think they are. But yeah, you kind of know the luck of them too. And when you're killing the same lambs roughly at the same time, when they're going onto the crop here and being killed straight away, you can kind of judge how heavy they are, really. It's, yeah, female lambs will be a bit lighter, because, you know, male lambs with their hormones and testosterone and stuff will grow a lot quicker. But yeah, you kind of, it's easy to judge, but you know the luck of them that they're big. Like, yeah, when you're fighting with them, trying to drench them, you know that they're big, trying to hold them back. But yeah, we're quite happy with them, and it'll be interesting to see how they scan, being this much bigger, which hopefully will lay them to have bigger lambs and better lambs. Maybe, we don't know, we'll see. This is the biggest they've ever been since I've been here. Yeah, and we've just basically put that down to having less ewes in the hills and lambing the triplets on the flats, meaning that they weren't really being pushed for feed, really. We were, you know, 15-20 ewes lighter in each paddock in the hill, which meant that you know, that's 20 less mows to feed competition for them. So that's that's what we're putting them down to, was a bit lighter and looking after the triplets more on the flats. So we had actually less small lambs come weaning as well. While generally before that, the only reason that's why we started scanning for triplets was because we were getting quite small lambs at weaning time, which meant it took longer for them to finish, and so on and so on. Because, you know, there wasn't that good of a quality up there, and they were probably, you know, fighting for food and stuff like that. While lambing them on the flats here, it's easy, they don't have to go far for food. It's basically growing the whole year round, or over winter pretty much. So once the lambs start to eat grass, you know, it's pumping in September, so it is basically, and nice fresh dry grass. And being on this here new grass too, it'll be interesting to see how they do as well. And being a bit drier now, we should be expecting pretty good things too. But then being more the mixed age scanning at 198%, there is more twins this year, so the hills will be stocked up a bit more. But being stocked up in the hills, they're basically back to normal where they were, nearly about 10 ewes less in each paddock this time. Like I say, we've got, I think there's about 150 triplets between the 3 and 4 year olds this year, compared to having 250 between the 2 and 3 year olds this last year. So there's 100 less mouths to feed on the flats, so which means we'll have a bit more room to move around a bit more, and maybe try and look after the 5 year olds to get them lambs going. They got hard, them lambs seemed to get hard last year after we weaned them, and they took a lot to push to get going on my place. They didn't actually, we still had most of them early Poll Dorset lambs till February basically, until we sent them down to the other block onto the plantain clover. It took them about 3 weeks before they started to pick up and actually get going. I don't know what happened, because they were on kind of not too bad a feed, but not great either. They were still on the flats. I don't put lambs in the hills afterwards, but yeah, we don't know what happened there. It's just, I think other boys, talking to other boys too, they were in the exact same thing. The early lambs just basically went hard and wouldn't grow for a very long time, basically. Obviously being too wet or something, I don't know, but that happens. It definitely does happen, so it does. But yeah, it's every year's different, every season's different, every weather spell's different during lambing. It just all depends basically of how much you can push them, and there's only so much you can push them without putting jabbing them with stuff with growth stuff or minerals or whatever to try and get them to go, which adds more cost to you. And the way the price of lambs is at the minute, it's not really worth it. But yeah, they're skipping about and running about there, they're pretty happy. But anyway, we'll take you around the corner to see the other adventure, and yeah, we'll see what they're doing around there. And these are the fat steers from last year. Fat ones, lighter of the fat ones, and lighter of the fat ones. Basically, I would get them in 2 truckloads, I think. But they're looking good. Factory is closed for about a month for maintenance and stuff, so we're just hanging on, putting weight on them. These will hopefully go next week, start of the following week maybe, and then yeah, these will go probably 2-3 weeks after, and hopefully there's 4 over there, and hopefully they will join up with them too. Otherwise I'll be taking 4 through winter, or basically just trying to get rid of 4 at one time, I suppose. Yeah, and yeah, that's the last of them. I think there's 24 altogether, and yeah, if we can get a truckload of 12 and 12, then beauty. Aye, hey boys. Yeah. Hi there, girls. He's all there. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, you are. Good God. Haven't broke through the fence. There's the tutus down here, the very back of the farm. They've grazed that nicely. Shift them tomorrow as well. Trying to just hold them a wee bit tighter. And that should keep growing there because it's new grass, year old new grass. But basically, we're in the cow game. Yeah, I've been talking about this the last couple of years. And they came up this year, being such a dry winter and autumn. A lot of boys were struggling over stalls. So yeah, got these at a good price. Not too far away. Yeah, they were light. So we're trying to pick them up. These are the lightest, 15 out of 60 that we have here. The other ones are actually on the two hill country over there. Trying to graze that out. Yeah, basically, decided to go into the cow game because the steers were doing the job. They weren't actually cleaning up all this rough stuff on the hills. This is part of the hill of the flat paddock. The rest of the hills are like that too. Basically brown top, rat's tail, all the other old native grass that the sheep won't really eat. And the steers would just basically graze the easy stuff and basically bellow out saying that they're hungry rather than actually come up here to eat this stuff. They were getting soft. Steers do come from a pretty flat farm outside, not that far away from our flat farm. As calves, they're calved up in the hills of basically Taihape, I think it is, National Park Road. But they come down, wean to the flat farm, and obviously they get a bit soft and don't want to work like they should. But yeah, basically got in 60 cows. Basically got in 60 cows to do this job, to tidy up the farm, because the farm's just like this here. We might slowly build it up to about 120-ish. I think it'd be quite a good number for the hills. Don't really, like, we could winter 200 cows easily on this stuff, just to feed them, get them clean up the paddocks. But then once you get the roughage 1 year, you don't have it the following year, because you've got enough cows on to do it. So then you're going to be struggling for feed, say 18 months later, 2 years later, once you've got the farm all nicely cleaned up. So it's basically just a management of having the right number of cows, and slowly rotate them around the hills, I suppose, getting them grazed down. But basically the idea is, because there's roughage on the hills, if you can get it opened up, it'll let the sun get to the base of it, which means it'll grow fresh stuff. It's like the flat paddock while you top it. And then when the rain comes, it'll hopefully freshen up and there'll be more goodness for the sheep to eat, and help them and the lambs grow. That's the idea of it. If it works or not, it'll take a couple of years for it to get onto it because there's so much there. But basically that's why we're doing it, to open up the hills so it'll grow nicer subclover and fresh native grass. I'm basically break fencing these, where is it, down here, because there's only 15 of them and there's no point. We'll only put them on here on Friday. Basically they're on our drain paddock on the flats, getting used to the village. Fenced them up on the hillside there, did an amazing job there. Could see a big difference. Even now they've been off there for about a week. You can see a big difference over there, with growth wise. So basically, I think in the future I might be fencing a bit more of these kind of paddocks on the flat paddocks, so I can have a mob of say 10 or 15 steers or cows grazing them. But yeah, basically they're not calving till probably end of September, start of October, we're guessing. Right through to probably Christmas time, I think the bull was pulled out. Being lighter cows, they probably weren't cycling that well, so I'm guessing there's going to be little calves. But yeah, they're pretty good. They're small, but they'll soon grow. If we keep feeding them, they'll grow. It's like hoggets. If you keep feeding them, they will grow out. no matter what. It's like a dog. Dog doesn't fully grow until they're about 3 years old, and you can definitely tell that by Max, my young hunt away / heading dog / mongrel love for breeding dog. He came from a neighbour across the river here, who had 2 pups. She kept one. I got Max, and yeah, they're out of good dogs. Hunt a good heading bitch and a hunt away dad, we think. But yeah, he's showing. He's coming on leaps and bounds. It's just basically control is the biggest thing for him. But he's grew last 6 months. He's doubled in size basically. He's the same height as Scooby, but just fine like Jade. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see in another year how he actually does. Just like Moose as well, the chocolate lab. He's the guts of 50 kgs and he's 3 years old now. So it's basically trying to keep the weight off him, or keep the weight steady on him now, because he whatever the dogs leave of dog tucker in the kennels, he goes in and swoops them the next morning and just chews on that the rest of the day. So he's cheap to feed because you don't actually have to feed him, because he's eating up everybody else's scraps. But yeah, labs, can't stop feeding them. They just love to friggin' roam. But anyway, this is them. They're pretty quiet too. They're pretty tame now. I'd say if you got them in the yard it'd be different, but it's amazing. We reckon they never seen bailage until they came here, and within 2 days they were friggin' just lapping it up. They were just loving life. They're full as could be. They are actually putting weight on. We could probably pull half of them out and put them in with the other mob. They've actually come on leaps and bounds, but it's actually handy. We'll keep them the same mob as what they are, because we'll fence this bit off here. The other side of that flat, it goes down into a riverbed of a flat as well. So I'll probably stuck the fence across the top and down the bottom, and let them have in the gully. And then I've got Sugarloaf Knob just there that you can't see because of the sun. Stick the fence round there and so on, because the cattle never graze it. They always stick in the flats, and yeah, why not? It's good feeding. I don't want to hold them too much, because then they'll go backwards. But checkers, there's that much good feed here, like it's unbelievable. You can see the greenness there. So they're doing quite well. They're not going backwards now, so they'll last here a week, and then I'll probably just shift the fence over to the rest of it, and they'll hopefully get 2 weeks out of this hillside and probably another couple of weeks over there, and yeah, get them through to about a month before calving, and then bring them up onto another paddock, and away you go. But yeah, that's our plan. So basically need to be looking for bulls, I suppose, for next year. All the bulls here are gone. We don't really want to be paying big money for bulls, because the cows aren't that great of breeding, I suppose. I don't know. They're good. We don't have any records, but they're they should be good. But there's no point spending 10 grand on a bull each just to serve 60 cows. It's enough cows probably for one bull, if they don't come on heat at one time. But then you run the risk of him not performing. So basically it means you nearly need to test him before you put him out, or you need to be buying one, testing him right through winter, so you see what's going on. But yeah, it'd be easier just to have 2 bulls. But at the same time, I nearly would get them tested just to be sure, because yeah, I know by the time you find out if they're not in calf, it's nearly too late. So then you're going to have late calves, or yeah, basically selling them. But we'll see. I know a neighbour of mine has bulls, so I probably need to talk to him. He sells them to dairy farmers, so it would be quite handy to have them, because I know they're actually quite good breeding bulls. He's a commercial herd, but he's all Angus, and he buys good bulls to go over them, so they'd actually be quite good to actually get. But we need to sit down and talk to them and see what the story is. Would be quite handy, because you just slip them through the boundary fence. But we'll see. But anyway, we'll leave them here. See, the tutus are, it's not too often they gather still. Generally they run away when they hear the bike. But yeah, we will leave it here, and hopefully we will see you in the next one. Cheers.